think it is.
And now we're live on YouTube, so.
Okay. So just to explain the brief pause there, I needed to discuss briefly the public hearing notice. There was a typographical error in the first paragraph with respect to the notice, but the overall notice does reflect the at the header the fact that this is for local law number 2 of 2021 to extend the current moratorium on battery storage in the town of Rush. And just wish to confirm with the town board that they would like to proceed with the public hearing, which they would like to do so. And so with that, I will turn it over back to the deputy clerk to open the public hearing and ask for anybody to re-raise their hands that wished to give public comment during the hearing.
Do I need to read the notice again?
No.
No.
Okay. So right now,
Janet Glocker had her hand up.
yes.
Thank you. I would just like to comment that I hope the moratorium will be extended. This is important. It is a matter of public safety. And with respect to safety, I would note that California is #1 in installed solar in the country. And in 2019, in response to some dangerous fires and explosions, and I think they happened not in California, but in another state, they issued a grant proposal or a call for grant proposals labeled GFO-19-305. It was a proposal for companies that wanted to do research on large-scale batteries, but it was limited to non-lithium ion batteries. So perhaps our local committee would take that into account as they are thinking about the batteries proposal here in Rush. Thank you.
Shelley, can you make Amber co-host as well? And Catherine Hankins has her hand up.
Yes, she does.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to support extension of the moratorium. I think it has been successful in starting to recruit people to be on the committee, but they really do need, just like Mr. Morelli said, experts, and that takes time. And so even if it's not enough for 6 months, but let's see where we are, but it's a very important issue. So I hope it will be extended. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? If you're on a telephone, feel free to unmute yourself, give your name and address, and share what you'd like to. I think I see one phone maybe coming on, 512.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, it's Marianne Rizzo. Yeah, I got bumped off the internet. 25 Stoll Road, Marianne Rizzo. I would really like to see batteries be, an effective tool in our society and in our town. But it sounds like, the confident science isn't there yet. So it sounds like we really need to continue the moratorium. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? That was Mary Ann, right? 512?
Yes.
Okay. I do not see anyone else raising their hand or unmuting themselves, Supervisor.
Okay. If the deputy clerk will move on to.
Well, I think we're going to close the public hearing.
Yes,
Motion to close the public hearing.
I will make a motion to close the public hearing on our temporary land use moratorium prohibiting large-scale battery energy storage system installations.
I'll second it.
Councilman Williver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Aye.
Councilman Lang,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey.
Aye.
So that closed the public hearing. Do we now read the resolution?
The-
That's later.
That's later? Okay. Attorney Mancuso?
I don't see it on the agenda, but it can
I
be
don't-
done, it can be done at any time tonight.
Okay.
While
Will
we're
do.
on this, while we're on the subject, why don't we do it now?
I agree with that.
Okay.
I will put it up. And if somebody would like to read it.
I can read it. You don't have to put it up. If you want to, go ahead.
I'll put it for the public. Go ahead, Ryan.
Resolution of the Town Board of the Town of Rush regarding local law number 2 of 2021, enacting a further extension of a temporary land use moratorium prohibiting large-scale battery energy storage system installations within the town of Rush. Whereas pursuant to local law number 1 of 2020, the Town Board of the Town of Rush, the Town Board, adopted a temporary land use moratorium prohibiting large-scale battery energy storage system installations within the town of Rush. And whereas the Town Board has determined that it is in the interest of the town of Rush to enact a further extension of the land use moratorium prohibiting large-scale battery energy storage installation within the town of Rush. And whereas a public hearing on local law number 2 of 2021 was held on April 14th, 2021, in accordance with the requirements of the New York Municipal Home Rule Law and New York Town Law, a notice was posted as required by law. And whereas all persons at the hearing desiring to speak on the matter were heard, and all correspondence on the matter was read, and these statements were considered by the town board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the adoption of local law number 2 of 2021 is a type 2 action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law in New York in 6 NYCRR Part 617, collectively referred as seeker, and thus is not subject to review under seeker. And be it further resolved upon due consideration by the town board, local law number 2 of 2021, a copy of which is attached and incorporated hereto is hereby adopted. And be it further resolved that notices of the resolution shall be filed and circulated to the extent required by any applicable provision of the town code and or any relevant statute or regulation. And be it further resolved that said resolution and local law shall take effect immediately upon its filing in the office of the Secretary of State in accordance with section 27 of the New York Municipal Home Rule Law.
I'll second it.
Okay, so the adoption of the foregoing resolution was moved by myself, Councilperson Ryan Lang, seconded by Amber Corbin.
Councilman Woolever,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Yes.
Councilman Lang,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey.
Aye. Thank you all for your patience and participation in that matter. And we're where we want to be at this point, so thank you very much. I think we can now, unless Deputy Supervisor Corbin has anything else to add, I think we can move on to the public comment period, the balance of the public comment period. So please have at it.
If there's anyone willing to speak, again, the chat feature is not working right now, so please either do a reaction or turn your video on and raise your hand. Carol Barnett, I see Carol Barnett. So Carol, if you could unmute yourself, give your name and your address.
Yes, this is Carol Barnett at 117 Lyons Road. Um, At the most recent town board meeting on March 24th, there was some discussion of the Rushtown newsletter and what messages it would contain regarding a number of spring events, including the townwide cleanup, the Boy Scouts mulch sale, a guided walk, and volunteer gardening on town property. One of the town board members expressed some concern about the organizations whose events were being promoted and wondered, and this is a direct quote from the transcript, what are the rules behind putting the newsletter together, and who makes those decisions, and how does it get paid for, and are we spending taxpayer dollars on something for a private entity? I would like to remind the town board and the residents of Rush that nonprofit organizations occupy a special position in our community. Groups like the Rush Historical Society, the Lions Club, the Scouts, and the Rush Recreation and Park Association operate for a collective public and social benefit, unlike entities that aim to generate a profit. These organizations are assets to the community. They exist to benefit the community. A very large percentage of all volunteer activity takes place through nonprofits and thereby saves taxpayers money as well as making our lives immeasurably better. For these reasons, pardon?
I'm muting somebody, Carol. Sorry, they were unmuted.
For these reasons, the town of Rush may and should promote the events and programs of these very public-spirited organizations. And I thank you for listening, and I will be sharing the text of that remark with everybody on the town board, as well as the town clerk and the attorney. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Who's next?
Is there anyone else? Please turn your video on. I don't see anyone waving at me.
No.
Same thing with
Hello?
telephone. Oh, I hear someone, 512.
Hi, it's Marianne again. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, Marianne Rizzo, 25 Stoll Road. I have two things that I'd like to comment on. I appreciate everything John Morelli said about the proposal about the limited industrial, and it's not industrial, it's limited industrial. And I have been reading over the 1993 comprehensive plan. And one thing that I read is that a limited industrial development will fit into the town's character. And I want to thank the planners in 1993 for putting that in. It's a very thoughtful thing, and and I hope it's going to be included in the next comprehensive plan. And I'd like to add the word special. Okay, so limited industrial development will fit into the town's special character because we have a special town here in a special location. I want to caution the board in not giving a blanket approval to a full 69 acres of land to transfer from its designated, I think it's farmland, to rezone it to limited industrial. I think giving a carte blanche blessing to that is like saying, well, we're going to say yes to an invisible ghost. It's going to be limited industrial, and then it'll go to the planning board so they can evaluate it there. But I just would like you to have, be conservative about it. We do have limited industrial land that has not been developed in High Tech Park, and I think you should be very, very careful. One of the farmers said recently, once you develop farmland, most likely it will never come back to being farmland again. And that to me was very poignant. So what could happen, and I think, and I want to also caution you, I think most people on the town board, they have a lot of respect for Mr. Moore, so they might say yes to him. But I ask you to, I think this land, once it's rezoned, very well can be sold and bought by the highest bidder. And so I'm just asking you to proceed in a very responsible way for our town and to make absolutely sure that each proposal fits with the town's special character. There also says in that 1993 comprehensive plan, that it should fit into the residents' needs. So I thought that was very interesting as well. So, you know, I'm thinking back to a trucking company, and maybe, maybe that can be interpreted diesel, traffic, and trucks fitting into the residents' needs. You might, but I mean, it could be, thought of in a conceived that way and interpreted that way. So I just like you to be very careful. It's a game changer for the town. So please think it through, and just if you're going to approve one part of it, 69 acres, 69 plus acres is, I don't know if that's 3 times the size of the hamlet. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody knows, but it's a lot of land. So that's the first thing, and I wanted to talk about. Second thing is the cleanup day. So the cleanup day starts. It's actually going to be 15 days of spring, and it starts tomorrow. And so we want to encourage everybody to join in, and it's on your own time. We did that last year because it's COVID time, and if you maybe next year it'll be all in one day. But so if you could participate, we ask that you choose roads that are no more than 35 miles per hour, and you can spend an hour doing it, a couple hours doing it, and we'd really appreciate it if you let the Rush Recreation and Park Association know that you did it. We like to keep account of who participates, and if you could send your pictures of, if you want to, send some pictures of your group or any part of it. And we want to thank the Girl Scouts are going to participate this year, and the Boy Scouts. We want to thank them. And in terms of the trash, if you can put the trash in your own refuse, that would be good. But if you'd like us to pick it up, we can do that too. And we're going to be giving out bags tomorrow at the proclamation. And if you need more information, at the bottom of the poster in the town newsletter, there's an email and a phone number to contact, or you can call the town hall. I'm sure they'll get it to us. So thank you for participating. It starts tomorrow, and we just want to make our beautiful town, more beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Anyone
provide-
else?
Yep. John Morelli turned his video on. There was another person, BP Herman, had his video on, but it's now off. So I'm not sure if he still wanted to speak.
Before we move, Deputy, you were going to say something, and I would like to hear that, please.
I was going to say something. I'm not
Oh.
sure.
Okay, well, if you think of it, bring it up.
Okay.
Mr. Morelli?
Yes, hi again, I'm John Morelli, 535 Five Points Road. I wanted to add on, before I had several definitions open here, and I just wanted to pick the one that was most appropriate. We have had some discussions about concerns over spot zoning in the town. And spot zoning is zoning that essentially is a deviation from the comprehensive plan. It's the granting to a particular parcel of land a classification concerning its use that differs from the classification of other land in the immediate area. It's considered invalid because it amounts to an arbitrary, capricious, and unreasonable treatment of a limited area within a particular district. So I wanted to bring that up because, as I said, we've discussed it before, and I wanted to add it to my previous comments regarding the rezoning of the Mr. Moore's property, and thinking that this is not the time for us to be doing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. And did I hear that Brad Herman would like to speak?
He had his video on, but now it is off. So he's still with us. So I'll give him a few seconds if he wants to turn his video back on. If he doesn't, then I will take that he is not going to speak at the public comment period, number one.
He can express his opinion in the second public comment period if he so desires.
All right, Shelley, I don't see anyone else. Do you?
I do not.
All right,
All right,
Then-
then let's move on to the approval of minutes. Do I have a proposal to accept the March 24th regular meeting minutes?
I'll move to approve the town board meeting minutes of March 24th as submitted by the town clerk Pamela Bucci.
I noticed several errors that I relayed back to the clerk. And I don't think she had a chance to rectify or change some of them. So I'd move to table that till next board meeting.
I'm okay with that.
That's acceptable.
I'm okay with that.
Dan?
Who's
Okay.
second? So Ryan, you motion to table it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Councilman Williver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Aye.
Councilman Lang,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey.
Aye. We can move on to Councilperson Wickerham's approval of abstract.
Okay, you want me to do the approval of the transfer of funds as well?
Well, you can do abstract first and then funds afterwards if you'd like.
Okay, all right. I, Councilperson Wickerham, moved, having reviewed all vouchers, number 276 through number 326, that they be approved for payment in the amount of $34,019.93. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And I also have a couple of comments or observations that I made while I was doing the abstract. The large amounts this time around, we had $5,649.17 in legal fees. We had $1,945 spent to update our code books. We had $1,347.36 was spent on the newsletter. We spent $3,096.20 to repair and maintain the town hall boiler system. We also, Highway Department, for machinery maintenance and repair, spent $4,257.34. And I'm assuming that this happens every pay period, but our payroll processing costs us $2,547.98. So that was, those were the large items in the abstract this time. But I did make a note that we're still spending over $300 a month on electric over at the 1911 house. I'd really like to see if we can do something and get that down to minimal, because we don't even spend that on the barns over on the Bosse's property. The other thing that I wanted to figure out as I was going through the Verizon bill, when was the last time that we ever had them come in and do an audit? Because we have so many different lines and different numbers and names on some of those telephone lines that haven't worked in the town hall in a few years. So I'm just wondering, how do we go about getting the Verizon bill audited so it's more accurate and up to date? But those are the things I noticed in the abstract.
The Verizon system's new.
Verizon's brand new. The Verizon is the new phone system.
It's just out. I mean, it still has Sue Knight and a couple of other people who haven't been in the town hall for over a year listed on it. So I guess I just like, is there a way to get, and I know that I talked to Pam about it and she said because of COVID, they're not allowed to come in and do an evaluation, but there should be a way to do that over the phone, you would think. But anyways, it was just a curious item on the bill that just seemed like it was way too complicated.
With the new
So-
phone system that we have in place now, and Verizon being the carrier, that information should be available for exchange with them to get our record straightened out. Yes, it's true that they could not come into the building because of COVID, but I'm going to guess that that might not be as rigid any longer, and they should be able to provide us with that correct information.
So who might we assign that task to?
Mrs. Hankins has been the go-between, and
Okay.
has proved to be effective for the assignments has been given, so I would like that to happen.
Okay. Do you want me to let her know that or ask her?
I'm right here, so
Okay.
I have a conversation scheduled with them tomorrow morning. But the extensions are there that, we're still trying to implement the new phone system. So
Okay.
it has been quite a challenge, and they have not been allowed to come on site. So
Okay.
that may be changing in the near future, but we're still working on making sure that all the phones actually operate. So,
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Catherine.
but it's far less expensive than what we were paying to Frontier, but we still have Frontier costs as well. So it is complicated. I'll give you that.
Thank you. Okay, Shelley, sorry, I interrupted your vote count.
Okay. Councilman Woolever,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Aye.
Councilman Lang,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey.
Aye.
Okay, and then I'll do the transfer of funds. I, Councilperson Wickerham, moved to having audited appropriations of unreserved fund balance or unanticipated revenues that transfer number 1 in the amount of $17,304 be approved. Transfer from the solar escrow accounts into legal and engineering contractual agreement or line items. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Woolever,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Aye.
Councilman Lang,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey.
Aye. Thank you, Councilperson Wickerham. And we will now move into the reports from the town board members and the department heads. And we can start off with Deputy Supervisor Corbin, please.
I have quite a bit to share. We've had 3 weeks in between town board meetings. Normally we have about 2. So on March 29th, I attended a webinar with Broome County on wind and solar leasing on agricultural lands. It was very informative. I attended the local water revitalization project meeting as the Rush Riverside Refuge liaison. Councilwoman Wickerham and Rush Parks Association President Mary Ann Rizzo are also a part of it. April 6th, I attended a Zoom meeting with a group outside of Buffalo. The topic was citing renewable energy projects on the sacred land of the Seneca. April 7th, I toured the building on the Rush Riverside Refuge, better known as the former BOCES, with the recreation director and Horse's friend. What I'd like to really impress upon the town board is we need to get over there and look at that. I've been in this position for a year. I've never been through the horse barn, the blacksmith shop, the greenhouse, or the indoor riding rink. And those buildings are in need of major repairs. The holes in the roof, a lot of damage. So I'm hoping by our next town board meeting, if 2 people can go over at a time just to tour them, I think it would be very valuable. April 7th, I attended a training with the planning board on seeker by Attorney Mancuso. I highly recommend all members of planning, zoning, and our town board attend the next training in May if possible. I learned a lot. April 10th, I shared earlier, I attended the Town of Avon Zoom meeting on their solar battery moratorium committee work. April 10th, also, I coordinated a site visit on the proposed Tier 3 solar project at 540 Honey Falls, number 6 Road. We were there for about 2 hours. The project installer Helios placed poles at about 14 foot high at the project fence line and then 10 to 12 foot inside to represent the panels. The developer took lots of pictures. They're going to do a visual impact study and submit it to the planning and the town board. And Helios will be at the next planning board meeting this coming Tuesday, the 20th. And they're hoping to have that report ready. April 13th, I attended a Zoom meeting with the Rush Henrietta Superintendent, town and school district leaders in Brighton, Henrietta, and Rush. I see familiar faces right here that were there. It was on the 2021-22 recommended school budget. Update on the new website. We continue to make good progress on it. Supervisor Secretary and I have been meeting with the developer, and tomorrow we expect hopefully to send out the test website for review. We'd like the feedback and how easy it is to move around, find information. We're not worried about pictures, things like that. So we're going to be sending that out to the departments for their feedback. And then I just want to also bring up my last that I brought up at the last board meeting about the conflict of meeting dates for both the planning board, the library board, and the fire commissioners. We all meet those groups on the third Tuesday of each month. I did speak with the library director, and the third Tuesday of the month allows them to get their vouchers completed for payment with the abstract. And they had tried different dates, but that is really what they have determined to be the best date. So I'll be reaching out to the planning board chair and fire commissioners to get their input. There's lots of other dates available, and hopefully to allow for not only town board members to be able to attend, but all residents or non-residents to be able to attend those very important meetings. Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you very much. And I just want to add, I don't like to bring up COVID again. However, I have been trying to get a response from the Monroe County Fair Association about their use of that property this year. And as usual, they're waiting for our governor to approve the fair to operate on that site. So I don't think that should get in the way of building maintenance and repair. We might have to think about taking an alternative route, but let's let them respond to us before we get involved with that. Councilperson Lang, do you have an update for us?
I do.
Good.
Again, some busy few weeks here, but on 4/1, I attended the Conservation Board meeting as a sub-in for another board member. They discussed a subdivision that was going on during that meeting and some concerns that they passed along to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which I also attended on April 8th. So it was nice to see some of the memos getting handed across the board here and going on with that. And they reviewed some applications for some variances, including a pole barn on a Harrod Inn property, which was approved, and 2 others were tabled. I also attended the Helios site visit on April 10th. Again, with the developers and the landowner and other members of the planning board and town board to visualize the impact it would have in the panel heights, given with 14-foot poles that were set into the various points of the property. And it was interesting to see the elevations and see and not see, especially with the tree line that's already existing. And finally, on April 12th, the steering committee of the comprehensive plan got together and we met on Monday for a couple hours. It was a very successful kickoff meeting of the work that was already been done prior. Some words that were thrown around, like consultant and survey and scope of the work were thrown around. So we all have a lot of homework to do before our next meeting. I stopped by the hall the other day and spoke with Catherine and indicating if there was any surveys that were anybody that can remember that were done. And the best answer we came up with was maybe perhaps for the 1993 comprehensive plan that was written, or prior to that, the last time a survey was done. So we're heading in the right direction. We're trying to get a lot of the work done in-house before we continue and see what we can do with our assets that we have on the board or on the committee. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How about our attorney, Mr. Mancuso? Do you have an update?
No report.
Thank you. I don't know about our code enforcement officer. Are you here, Rick?
I
He
do
is
not,
not.
I do not see him on.
All right, then we will move on to our historian, Sue Me. Is she here?
I don't see her either.
No, I do not see her either.
Wow, then we're gonna have to pick on Councilperson Wickerham and get her to speak again.
Stuck with me for a couple of seconds, Jerry. Like Amber mentioned, the local waterfront revitalization program had their initial meeting with the advisory team. The representative from New York State Department of State gave an overview of what the program was for the advisory team members. EDR, who is the consulting firm that is guiding this, shared what their process would be in helping the advisory team put a report and a project plan together. The teams probably will meet 8 to 10 times while they're developing the plan for submission to the state. The goal is to have something complete by either late fall 2022 or early spring 2023. Supervisor Schultz from the town of Henrietta is very ambitious. He's hoping to have it all complete by the fall of 2022, but he understands that there might be a little bit of time that needs to be taken. We had a second resignation from the Board of Assessment Review, and we did have one candidate submit a resume, and I have been in contact with a former member of the Board of Assessment Review, and Karen Hopkins is, I asked her if she would be interested in filling out the remainder of Louis Gurley's term, which would end September of this year. She's going to think about it, and I am going to, in the process, figure out when the training is going to be, because even though she's been a very active member of the that board for many years, she would still need to get the certification. There are, the Monroe County does have training coming up via Zoom, but if she is unable to attend that for whatever reason, she said there's also training with other counties that she's also able to get a certification for. So she's going to let me know in a day or two whether she's interested in helping us out, at least for this year. I also went on the Helios site plan walk on Saturday and again today. So those two different perspectives from different planning board members. So that was an interesting walk, and it was definitely more wet today than it was on Saturday. So we had a mud through our boots and on the tread tires. Jerry shared with me that there might be a possibility of grant money to for dam work, and mentioned that there had been work done in the past. I'm going to be meeting with Mark David to talk about whether there's any interest or whether there's any need in maybe applying for some grant money to either upgrade or finish the work that got started during Rich Anderson's tenure. I did come into the town hall today, and Catherine and I had a lot of fun going through some old documents and found that the dam folder was down in the R's, which I'm so glad I looked through all the drawers because I would have never found it. But so I'm going to go review those, and Mark and I are going to talk about what might be needed as far as work on that, and whether we should go along with submitting application for grant money. Amber and I, as we were talking about the Horse's Friend possibly using the barns and her tour of the properties over at the old Bosse's property, and how they really had significant disrepair and neglect. There was at one time and I don't know, Amber remembered it but wasn't sure about it. I called Kathy Frank about the grant monies that were secured through Senator Funke. Catherine and I looked and looked and looked today and could not find any documentation that actually told us that the grant monies came in or what it was used for. But there was a possibility that they were there. So we're still looking through those old documents, and I need to go back through the database of the Senate to see where those SAM grants from back in 2016, 2015, what happened to those and if it was ever given to us. I also attended the webinar on wind and solar siting under the new state 93C laws, and very interesting. I was picked up a couple of interesting subjects regarding community host agreements and pilot agreements that we really should be looking into if we're gonna be forced to host these projects in our town. We should really look into seeing what the financial benefit to our town could be. So there are documents and examples of different community host agreements. I talked to one of the attorneys that presented at the webinar, and he was able to share that with me. So I'm still doing research on that. So I think that that's it for me.
I hope you found the 3 folders I left at my desk for you regarding.
No, we didn't even go in your office. We went through the file cabinet.
Oh,
So I'll come in tomorrow and get those.
They're right on my desk
Okay.
with your name on them.
Okay. I didn't even go into your office. Catherine and I got stuck at the file cabinet.
That's
So,
okay.
all right, I'll come in tomorrow and grab those. Thank you.
And I'm glad that you looked into the dam activity, because I tried to research that last week and found nothing. I suspect that the funky money that was secured was used to replace the roof on the dairy barn at the New York Museum of Transportation.
Well, what Kathy Frank told me was that she thinks that part of the grant money went to repair the roof on the carpenter's shop, and part of the money also went to pay for the temporary water that went to the fairgrounds. But she couldn't remember whether the horse barn never got done, so she couldn't remember if the money was ever approved. And like Catherine reminded me, grant monies, you spend it and then submit for reimbursement. So it may have gotten to the point where we couldn't afford to spend it, but that's why I want to go back through the Senate SAM grant approvals and see if that money's still there. Can we still access it? So I can do that through my other job.
Well, thank you very much for your report. Really appreciated. Is Assessor Minio with us?
I do
He
not.
might not be, because he just left the town hall, I believe.
Oh, he did, huh? Well, okay.
Well, yeah.
I'm at the town hall and I have not seen anyone.
Then we're going to move on to the Finance Director, Christine Pereira, if she is on board.
Hi, Jerry.
Good evening.
Good evening. I have nothing to report. That's it.
Well, you could let everyone know how you're doing in your position and how you like it.
Oh, sure thing. So I've been still training with Dan, and so that's going well. And pretty soon I have some additional trainings coming up outside of Dan with the Office of the State Comptroller. And that will be next month. So I'm pretty excited for that. But other than that, training's going well.
Great, thank you very much. How about our library supervisor, Mrs.
She is-
Glass?
She is not here tonight, but I have a very brief report from her.
I wondered if you might.
She would like to remind folks that they are open on Saturdays again from 10 to 2 p.m. And they still offer curbside delivery to those who would like it. And they hope to return to normal pre-COVID hours, late spring or early summer. And I know there were a couple of sprinkler heads that still needed some work, and I know Councilman Wolliver was looking into that. I don't know if there's any update on that, Dan?
I'm still trying to get a hold of Tom McHale. He's got a.
All
I don't
right.
know.
I'll let her know. That's all.
Right, thank you very much. We can move on to Dan and you can talk about sprinkler heads or anything else you'd like.
Tom McHale's got a plan for the sprinkler heads, but apparently he hasn't done it yet. So I'll try to get a hold of him again. Fill us a temporary water for the fair. That's been paid through the town. That wasn't grant money.
That's what I thought.
I attended the school board meeting. That was very informative. Sounds like good news on the tax rates not going up much, which they got federal money and state money to help with the COVID expenses. 1911 house, we're still waiting on the report from Barrow. And we have a problem with the North Rush Cemetery. They're teetering on default. They have no real operating money. I know there's no money in our budget for this year, but next year we should consider some kind of money. Their expenses per year are about $3,000 for mowing and insurance. And if they don't get money to keep going with those two expenses, then the town's going to get the cemetery to take care of on their own. They're going to have to manage the whole thing. So we should at least consider possibly donating something so they can keep in business, or something we're going to have to talk about at budget time. Their annual meeting is next Wednesday. So should have some more information after that.
Yeah, I've talked about that with Sue Mee, and I don't know if you are familiar with the process to either decide that we're going to take that over or we're going to subsidize their continue running of it. I don't know. What do you think?
They don't have any money, so we're going to get it eventually if we don't start supporting them now.
All right, well, we can talk about that. Let's wait till their meeting next week,
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah, the 20th.
And go from there. Thank you. Are you done?
Yep.
Thank you very much. How about Deputy Town Clerk Shelley? Do you have a update for us?
The town hall is booming with business. I don't want to speak for the recreation department, but the pavilion has really picked up.
Wow.
And taxes are slowly coming in, and the assessor's office is very busy right now.
Yeah, we know. Thank you very much. We can move on to Building Inspector John Limbeck. He came all the way back from Florida just to give a report tonight.
Yes.
It's that important to keep you guys informed. I attached the 2021 building permit spreadsheet for everybody's review. We continue to receive applications for permits, and they're predominantly for fences, sheds, and decks. I did talk with several contractors, and the roofing products, being that they're petroleum-based, they may be hard to get or have much higher prices this year. Just like everything else, it's through the roof, no pun intended. I continue to receive calls from residents, and I've been getting more and more where we take the time to discuss their projects and the steps that they need to take in order to receive a building permit. And, in some cases, people have to go to the zoning board to get a variance or whatnot, but it seems to be helping speed up the process a little bit. I did complete the combined Monroe County, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the erosion and sediment control class on March 30th. This certification is valid for 3 years, and the information comes in really handy for me as we look at projects that could have impacts on creeks, wetlands, other areas in the town. So I appreciate the opportunity to go to that. I had a discussion with representatives of the Sri Vidya Temple regarding their plans to construct the new building. They had a groundbreaking ceremony planned for today, and our discussion last week, I don't issue permits for site plan work, but I did remind their project engineer that they need to be in compliance with all of the planning board conditions of approval as they go through and do the site work. And the town engineer, Todd Ewell, is also aware that they're doing this work, so he will be checking on them as well. We also discussed what I'm going to need to review on the project prior to the issuance of a building permit. And I wanted to make sure that they understand that since this is going to be classified as public assembly, Rick Tracy will also be reviewing their plans before we issue that permit. Rick Tracy and I are working with Councilperson Corbin on the building safety concerns associated with the battery storage facilities. And I do need to respond to Mr. Morelli's concerns. The New York State Department of State, in conjunction with the International Code Council, do require very specific hazard mitigation construction safeguards in the building and fire code, depending on the hazards involved. This takes any ambiguity out of the contractor's hands, and it defines how the design professionals are going to proceed as they put that building together. So we'll have ample opportunity throughout that process to monitor what's going on. And I'm confident that we'll have, if something does happen, it can be designed, constructed, and turned over for safe use within the town. Number 5, Rick Tracy and I are following up on a property complaint where storage of items along a property fence line are problematic. We're taking a couple of steps, and I'll keep the board informed. Any comments or questions that I could answer for the board? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John, very much. Thanks for coming back from Florida just to deliver that.
You're welcome.
How about our recreation supervisor, Pat Stevens?
I'm here.
There she is.
All right. Do you have a update for us?
Yeah, I don't have video. Oh, there, am I here now? Oh, there, it looks like I might be here. My face isn't there, but I'm here.
We hear you.
Everything is doing good. We were wanted to go over Nathan Zuber's Gaga project. Hopefully to get it passed tonight through resolution so he can start on his project. I sent everybody.
That's number 1 on under old business tonight.
Okay, I sent everyone the insurance from the Boy Scouts of America, his project and the location, according to him and Mark David as to where it should be located. And I think he'd like for the approval to happen so he can go out and do some fundraising so he can purchase the supplies to do the project. And there's Nathan.
Anything else, Pat?
Oh yeah, everything's, I went over to Bosse's with Amber and Matt. That was very interesting. I felt bad about the horse barn. It is definitely deteriorating a lot more since the last time I was there. The tack room only had a hole in it last time, and this time the whole roof is collapsed. So it is in dire need of repair. The pavilion is booked and we're turning people away. And the school district is in its final phases of approving 4 days a week in school teaching. So we've gained more kids and more days in after school as soon as that is approved by the district. Otherwise, everything is running very smoothly.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And I don't think our highway superintendent is on. So I will report that the snow fences are down, which I hope isn't a bad premonition, but most of the soil damage along roadsides has been repaired, and they're pretty much concentrating on routine maintenance on all the highway equipment to get into the summer busy season. And with that said, we can move on to the Eagle Scout project proposed by Nathan Zuber, the Gaga Ball Court. We're going to have a follow-up discussion and hopefully a resolution. Pat, would you like to partner with Nathan on this subject?
Sure. I'm not sure what you'd like to say other than everyone has received the insurance, like I stated before. Everyone's received a picture of the actual pit and the size. The only thing that Mark asked is that Nathan add like a gate to the actual area so it can be ADA compliant. And Nathan and Mark David have selected a space for it to be placed. So otherwise, I think we are good to go as far as passing a resolution. I don't have the resolution in front of me, otherwise I would read it.
That's all good news, Pat. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Deputy Town Clerk, do we have a resolution for that project?
I believe you do.
I read it.
I have not seen that resolution, so I can't read it.
I've got it. It's kind of,
Okay.
okay. I don't have a resolution number, but it says a resolution. I motion to make a resolution to authorize Nathan Zuber, Eagle Scout Project, Gaga Ball Court on town property. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilman Woolever,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Aye.
Councilman Lang,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey.
Aye. And you'll get a number assigned to that resolution and record its passing. And we look forward to the Gaga Ball Court.
Right. And Nathan, you got to promise to invite us all to the ribbon cutting.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Do you have any
Great.
questions?
Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the townwide property reassessment. I don't know if Assessor Minio is with us. He wasn't a few minutes ago. So let me just say that we have been inundated with complaints, some not so nice, some fair, but in any event, it has been a very difficult time for the supervisor's office, and it has been a very difficult time for the assessor and the assessor's clerk. So after being accused of being behind this, and after being accused of bringing it on all at once, I decided I wanted to update people because I think there's a lot of misinformation going around out there. So I've got a little page and a third of information to read. And hopefully everybody can understand what I'm saying, and everybody can find out just exactly what is going on with our town-wide reassessment. I just want to talk about it a little bit. There's a great deal of information going around and about the reasoning and the process, in addition to the angst that has caused many people. There is absolutely no doubt about that. It's very unfortunate, but it is what it is, and that's why we're where we are. I don't intend to turn my talk here into a property assessment session, because the appropriate person for that would be Augie Minio. But I think some fact is long overdue for those who have been and may be further impacted. I first want to confirm with you that nothing has been done that is not a mandate from the New York State Real Property Tax Service. All counties in New York State have a responsibility to maintain up-to-date assessment values for all their properties. If that responsibility has not been maintained, such as it has not been maintained in the town of Rush for the past 8 years, then there will be a significant gap between the equalization rate, the 100% rate, and the present market value of all properties, which in Rush, after 8 years of no activity, is at 85%. The 15% difference must be eliminated per the real property tax law. And the only method allowed for closing that gap is to reassess all real property to the 100% rate. Happening in one fell swoop is, in most opinions, too much at one time, but we had no choice in the matter. We were given no other choice than to make up for 8 years of dereliction of duty by completing the reassessment all at one time in 2021. This is very concerning, and I understand your concerns, and I think the board understands everyone's concern. The real property assessed value is used to determine the tax bill for each property. This is where it can become confusing because there is a county tax, a school tax, a fire district tax, and a town tax. When those separate entities approve their budgets for the coming year, they are all combined to become the multiplier of the assessed value to determine the tax bill for that property. The tax bill multiplier cannot be determined until after the various budgets are approved. This process may not mean a resulting increase in your tax bill. This has been a brief look at the process and procedure we have recently engaged. Hopefully, it is very obvious that there has been no ulterior motive for taking this action on the part of anyone. That's one of the things that I've been accused of. But I encourage anyone who has additional comments, additional questions, please contact Augie Minio, the Rush Town Tax Assessor. He has all of the information. He likes to talk about it, and that would be a better thing than having misinformation go around. So with that being said, and Augie not being here, I'm going to get into the rezoning requests that we've seen. We've received rezoning requests for the Moore property on Route 15. We've received rezoning requests for the 5 Points neighborhood and the Meadowood neighborhood. And after a long chat with Attorney Mancuso, it's clear to me that all 5 board members could use his teaching expertise so that we all get on the same page. And when we're confronted with one of these requests, we will know the steps to take to complete it. So, John, are you ready?
Yes, Supervisor. And just to follow up on what the supervisor and I discussed, he had requested that I provide sort of a breakdown of the rezoning process in light of the fact that we have three requests currently before the town, one involving a project specific rezoning and two involving multiple properties, neighborhoods, as I'll refer to them, in non-project specific, but just a generic rezoning. And the supervisor had specifically asked me to walk through the process in a succinct fashion, but sort of to highlight sort of the nuances and or differences that might come up between the two. The process is generally the same, but some of the considerations may be more or less specific based on the fact that we are dealing with a project specific rezoning versus a generic neighborhood rezoning. So, you know, from a pure process standpoint, I know the town board has received information in the past on the steps that the board must take and boards, plural, must take in the town of Rush in order to rezone a particular property or a series of properties. And so I'll briefly talk about that first, and then sort of talk more about the substance in terms of some of the questions that the board should ask itself as it's thinking through, you know, the parameters of whether rezoning a property or properties makes, you know, sense within the confines of the town's comprehensive planning and the 5 individual members of the board that are elected to determine, you know, what makes sense from a current and future planning standpoint in the town of Rush.
Attorney Mancuso, this is Councilwoman Corbin. I just want to acknowledge that I am one of the property owners of the Meadowood request. So at what point that you need, obviously I'd like to hear what you have to say, but at what point you need me to step out of the meeting, please let me know.
And my presentation is not specific to any of the current applications. It's going to be very broad. So I don't, certainly if you feel the need personally to recuse yourself to the extent that any of the discussion is too specific, I will defer to you in that regard. But my intention is not really to comment specifically with respect to the substance of whether it's appropriate to rezone any of these properties tonight. And ultimately, that is, you know, purely to the discretion of the 5 members of the board, and in your circumstance for the Meadowood, it would just be the remaining 4 members.
Okay, thank you.
So from a process standpoint, the steps of a rezoning starts with the request that is made to the board. I will not belabor that point too aggressively because the board has 3 of those in front of it. That is really the starting point for this process to get a request in terms of what properties we are talking about. And that request, depending on whether it's site specific for a project or it's generic in its character, is going to dictate in large part you know, what material is going to be obtained. You know, with a generic rezoning, it's a lot less information most of the time because you're talking about general planning and not specific development. The next step after that is compliance with the New York State Quality Environmental Review Act, and similar to what I just stated in terms of the information for the for the request. The specificity by which you undertake that type of review is also dependent on what you're looking at. With a site-specific project rezoning, oftentimes a town board is looking at the project itself and what makes sense from an environmental review standpoint as it pertains to that specific set of environmental impacts. And those reviews will often involve multiple boards in the town of Rush. With most every project-specific rezoning, it is highly likely, if not always the case, that it will involve at least 2 boards in the town of Rush: the town board with respect to the legislative act of rezoning, and the planning board with respect to the approvals of site plans. If they need special permits, the approvals of special permits. If they need variances, then the zoning board of appeals would also be involved in that seeker review process. When you're talking about generic rezoning, there is no projects. And so a generic rezoning oftentimes only involves the town board. So you would do a review amongst yourselves and it would not involve any other agencies in the town of Rush or any other agencies at the state or county level, with the exception of county planning referrals that are made with respect to any of these actions. So seeker, and we went through, a training the other night, and we've gone through a fairly robust amount of seeker reviews with the solar projects. So I will not do a deep dive into the seeker compliance component, but just recognizing from a high level that a project-specific rezoning is often a more complex step with multiple boards versus a generic one, which is most of the time going to just be the town board, and you're looking at essentially nothing more than changes in use without any corresponding project. So there's no physical activity, in other words, associated with that. After that, just generic legal requirements, holding public hearings, referring matters to the Monroe County Planning Department under Section 239M of the General Municipal Law. Those mechanics, which the board I think is familiar with, as we've done them with the solar project specifically, and local law adoption. Because the amendment of the town code is necessary to rezone property. And then after that, the adoption of the local law is the mechanism by which a rezoning occurs. And that local law, as we've done with the Forefront project, is similar concept. You're amending the zoning map to redesignate a particular piece of property from, if it's R30 to R5, if it's commercial to industrial, whatever the case may be. That's how the local law operates, to identify the property or properties that are subject to the rezoning. So that was a quick 5-minute breakdown of sort of the steps. I will stop there for a second to the extent the board wants to ask me any questions about that generic process. So having heard no questions, moving on to the decision and considerations of whether to rezone property, the substance effectively of rezoning. There's been a lot of discussion over many meetings and tonight earlier in terms of spot zoning. That isn't a word often tied to decisions to rezone particular properties. In a simple statement, what spot zoning is the antithesis of planned zoning. So if you are engaging in spot zoning, you are essentially not planning in terms of an overall comprehensive nature of the town, orderly and proper zoning in a municipality, because the overall concept of comprehensive planning is determining whether or not particular land uses and particular districts and designations are carrying out and are compatible with each other and are likely to either harm or not harm surrounding properties in terms of overall development of a municipality. And so with spot zoning, what ends up happening is you have a land use that's inconsistent or clearly inconsistent with town comprehensive planning or the surrounding land uses. And so it's essentially something that's introduced that can be in conflict with what is surrounding it. And obviously the opposite in terms of your planning of zoning is to try to plan your municipality either in specific sections or as a whole, so that it's orderly planning in terms of uses that are in harmony with it in each other to maintain the overall harmony and character of the community. And I know when we talked about this in the concept of the solar law, for example, the town board spent many months trying to discern from a planning standpoint the areas of the town of Rush where solar development made sense to be and where it didn't make sense to be. And that's how buffer zones and other things were created in certain areas like R20 designated districts and other designated districts, and then other areas of the town it was allowed to continue. So that concept is a similar concept as you're talking about overall comprehensive planning and rezonings of property, generically speaking. So the types of considerations are similar in terms of looking at project-specific rezonings versus generic neighborhood rezonings. Some of those considerations may be more or less specific because of what you're looking at. So when you're looking at a project-specific rezoning, you obviously recognize what the end use is going to be. And someone is coming in to ask you specifically to redesignate a property to that zoning district because they have a particular project in mind. And so what you're looking at is, surveying that particular property, the surrounding land uses, whether it's compatible with surrounding land uses, whether there's a likelihood that it may harm the surrounding properties associated with what you're doing. With a generic rezoning, obviously the compatibility or lack of compatibility is more generic, because you're not talking about specific use that you're constructing or approving with respect to a property, but nevertheless, compatibility is a consideration, because, for example, if you're looking at a property that is or a neighborhood or section of town that's R30 and someone wants it to be industrial or commercial, what is that property? What is its surrounding properties? What are those uses engaged in? And are those uses that are proposed going to be compatible or not? Or likely to harm or not harm the surrounding land uses if redesignated? Because even if it was generic, it may be generic with no project today, but next year or 5 years from now, if that designation is the same and someone purchases that property, or the same owner decides to develop something, then you have a project. And so you've facilitated the rezoning, and so you need to be cognizant of the short-term and long-term effects of the rezoning process. And related to that is the next large consideration, maybe the largest consideration, the comprehensive plan and consistency with that. And I know we've talked about comprehensive plan, big C, big P, our town comprehensive plan. But the town comprehensive plan is more than just that plan itself. It's overall planning that the town has undertaken in many facets. It includes the town comprehensive plan. It includes the town zoning law. It includes other considerations the town is engaged in over the years in terms of orderly planning, if it's agricultural preservation and planning, if it's other things, renewable energy planning. Those are all planning elements of a town that may or may not be relevant in terms of the rezoning of particular properties as the town moves forward. And so the comprehensive plan is not a straitjacket. Some of the cases describe it as it's a guide to allow for planning based on all of the effort and work that was put in at the time to survey the community and come up with the conclusions and discussions about what pockets of town or the town sees as current uses and potential future uses, and what other tools may or may not need to be implemented to facilitate that kind of development. The plan has, as you all know, many aspects of that plan have not, either haven't been implemented or haven't changed, or a combination of things. There are many recommendations, obviously, that may or may not have been facilitated over the years, depending on the particular circumstances. But the objective in looking at that plan is not only to look at the current plan that we have, but it's of particular importance now in 2021 because the town board has authorized the updating of our comprehensive plan. And so when your board and by extension, the committee as well, as you're looking through the new comprehensive plan updating process, but this board has 3 requests in front of it, you should give some thought to how that fits in the overall context of the town's future planning, because you have rezoning that you are looking at today, but the comprehensive planning process will also touch on, I expect, uses within the town of Rush, and whether those areas that are being requested now are also areas that the comprehensive plan may speak to either currently or in the future is something the town board should at least be cognizant of as it's working through these areas. And relatedly, in terms of a project specific rezoning and comprehensive plan consistency, by extension, the zoning code consistency, with a project specific rezoning, you can often very clearly delineate, obviously, if there is going to be conflict with those plans and the project, because those projects are necessarily going to give the town information on things like density, things like uses, things like setbacks, and all of those types of things to be able to discern whether there is truly a consistency or lack of consistency. When you're talking about neighborhoods and larger groups of properties, you should give some thought to making sure that when you do those types of rezonings that you're not necessarily creating longer term problems or conversely, solving and preventing longer term problems. And so, for example, if you were to rezone properties from R20 to R30 or R30 to RR5 or industrial to commercial, each one of those districts has their own, not only uses that they permit and don't permit, but also density and other restrictions and other limitations, acreage requirements, square footage requirements, setback requirements. If you had a pocket of town that was zoned in a particular manner with large lots, and you rezoned it to a designation that allowed for much smaller lots with higher density, then all of a sudden one lot may be able to be converted into multiple building lots because you've rezoned it in a particular fashion and it allows for higher density. The opposite could also be true if you have a neighborhood where the lots are very small, but you rezone the property in a particular manner. Those neighborhoods may not comply with the converted zoning. They all become pre-existing non-conforming properties, which is important if any landowner ever wants to come in to get approvals in the future for something. They may just need to be cognizant of the fact that their setbacks have changed or their lot coverage requirements have changed, because it may or may not impact one property more or less than another. And so that's something where if you were talking about neighborhoods, it's probably wise to involve either the building department or the town engineer, to be able to work to sort of identify acreages of properties, in current uses and things like that, to get an overall landscape of what you're talking about, to be able to really discern, is it one property that is only impacted, or is it 12 properties that are impacted? Because that could, tie to the overall consistency with your current zoning and your current planning, and may necessitate changes as we work through the comprehensive plan update process. The third component is the justification and desire of those changes to the governing body. Why are we here? Why is the request being made? Is it project specific, which is fairly straightforward to discern? Obviously, the desire is I want to build a project. So how does that tie into the overall planning of the town? With more generic rezonings, you have to look at, what are the requests? Why are they being made? What is the planning objective associated with that request? Is it tied to something as generic as, that's what the comprehensive plan called for, and we're trying to facilitate that process? Are there other issues that have arisen where rezoning changes are going to be beneficial in terms of overall protection of certain areas of town moving forward? And so that's, a high level view, I guess, of all of that. I've said a lot of things in a very short period of time, so I think I'll stop. And certainly at this point, really just end by saying that the purpose of rezoning, or I should say that the decision of whether to rezone from a substantive standpoint, is purely within the discretion of the 5 members of the town board. So you as the town board make that decision in terms of whether you believe it fits, with obviously within the framework of some of the parameters I've outlined, but the discretion is at the town board's prerogative.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so my question would be, if it's purely at the town board's prerogative and approval process, where does the planning board come into those requests? Is that something that they help the town board make informed decisions on, or are they part of the approval process?
So they can be involved let me back up. They are in advisory capacity only as it relates to the rezoning of property. So when we're talking about, and I will say this, when we're talking about the rezoning only, just that first step, whether it's a project specific or not, they may or may not play an advisory role if the town board desires that they be involved in that stage of the process. In historically in the town of Rush, a referral, as it's called, has been made to get the input of the planning board, because they are 5 individuals that have been tasked with, planning in the town of Rush, and getting their input has been historically requested at the town board. But it is not set forth in any law in the town of Rush that be done. That's a purely discretionary decision. They may, if it's a project-specific rezoning, they may have their own approval later, obviously, site plan or something, but that's a totally separate issue. At the rezoning stage, it's advisory only, and at the behest of the town board, because we don't have a provision in our code that speaks to that. Some towns do. They mandate the referral, but we're not one of those.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll just comment, John, that was very enlightening for me, and it was very confirming for me. So I thank you very, very much. And I'll once again say, does anyone else have any comment or question? All right, John, thank you.
Thank you,
Very
John.
welcome.
That was very informative. It helps a lot.
Yes.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. You're welcome.
We can move on to the resolution to amend the rezoning checklist to include a $150 fee. And I'm gonna lean on Deputy Supervisor Corbin to present this. We did vote on the rezoning checklist, but somehow the fee, absolute fee, didn't get recorded correctly. So I'll have Deputy Supervisor Corbin explain that and propose the resolution.
Thank you, Supervisor. I met with the town clerk last week, I believe it was, and we were, because these rezoning requests were coming in, and on our form we gave out, it had one thing, and what we had as a town board discussed, and in reviewing, in talking with the town attorney, as well as reviewing the YouTube Zoom recording of it, what was actually should have been on the form. And what should have been on the form is number 8, if the screen is sharing okay. It says it is understood that $150 fee will be paid upon submission of the request for rezoning. It was a different statement in there that did not get changed when we approved this, when we thought we were approving it with the correction in it. So I'll open that up to the town board if I explained that well enough. If you have any further questions on that. All right, then I will so move to amend the rezoning checklist form version 4.0 to include a $150 fee to be paid with the application submission to the town clerk. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Williver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Aye.
Councilman Lang,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey.
Aye. Thank you all. And
Okay. Jerry,
yes,
with that discussion being had, I guess we have a 3 applications before us. One of them, the Moore project, has been in front of us with complete documentation for over 2 months now. The Meadowwood came in a couple of months ago. We got the 5 points. Are we going to be making a decision on that I would like to see that done in the very near future.
I think
I have been able to review all of the documentations, at least for the Moore property. I'd like to have some answers to some of the questions. How do I get answers about the RR5? Because I still don't understand that. So I guess we need to I need more clarification before we can move forward on a couple of those applications, but I'm clear on the other ones. So what are we doing?
when you stop in to see me tomorrow, as you previously committed to, I
I was there
provide-
today. You weren't there.
I know. I would share with you what I know about the RR5, and if that does not resolve your concerns, we can get more information for you.
Okay, sounds
But
good.
my intent is not to continue to kick these applications like a can down the road. I'd like to get them heard before the board, acted upon, and move on.
Can we make a commitment that at the next board meeting, we make some kind of decision on whether we're going to put those, we're either going to accept and say yes, or we need more information and table on all three of them?
I think that's a fair proposal.
Very good.
Anyone else? All right. We're going to lean on Deputy Supervisor Corbin again, once again, who's going to walk us through the rules and procedures update that we talked about at the last meeting.
Thank you, Supervisor, and Councilman Wickerham and I did do our research. We had shared with you what we were able to find from the area towns, and the town of Avon did have an adopted rules and procedure. And for tonight, we just wanted to take some time to actually not take a deep dive into it as a town board, but let the residents know that this is what we would like to work on, so that we have a set rules of the expectations of our town board meetings. And the town board has had this since, I think, the beginning of March. So I will open it up to the town board as far as if you hopefully have had a chance to look through it. And did you have any questions? You want me to leave it up there for the discussion purposes? Do you like the idea of adopting something? I think Phyllis and I do.
Well, it's interesting, Amber, as Catherine and I were going through the file cabinet today, there is a file in those cabinets across from her desk that includes adopted resolution as well, procedures for how the town board holds its meetings. So
Right.
it has all of the rules and regulations in there, but some of the items on the process and procedure from the town of Avon really gives a deeper dive into how we get to those meetings, which I think is a perfect thing that we need to work on, because you and I both are frustrated when we get to a Tuesday morning and the meeting's the next day and we don't have any of the paperwork that we're looking for. I don't feel like I have enough time to really get up to speed on things before making a vote. So those are the kinds of things that I'd like to look at in this process and procedure.
Well,
Would it be appropriate to get those files out, distribute them to board members, and have each board member put their proposed update in that file documentation, and maybe add some of the highlights of the Avon procedure to that?
We can do that. I'll grab those tomorrow. I didn't bring them, I didn't pull them out today because I had a whole bunch of other stuff I was looking at, but I'll pull those out again tomorrow.
All right, then let's do that, and let's make that an agenda item for the next meeting.
so Supervisor, can you just repeat our expectations then? We are going to look at the Avon process and procedure, and then what was the other part?
We are going to look at the existing rush procedure that Phyllis discovered today and give our personal updates to that, and then bring the Avon procedures into that for any good value points, and then propose it at the next meeting.
All right, we have our homework to do then.
For,
Thank you.
for, yes, to condense it, to bring it together, to discuss it.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay?
Mhm.
All right. Then we're gonna move on to new business and,
Supervisor QC,
yes,
I just
ma'am.
wanted to interrupt. We forgot to do the approval of budget transfer.
No, we did that.
No,
We
we
did
did
that.
that.
We did
I
it.
thought we did that. I
Okay,
thought we did that.
maybe I went away. I'm sorry.
I thought
You fall asleep on
Councilperson,
us, Shelley.
I thought Councilperson Wickerham talked about that right down to the 10th of a
I am
cent.
so sorry.
We
That's
did.
okay. That's okay. That's not a problem. But we're gonna move on to new business.
Okay.
And the first thing under new business is back in January, we passed a resolution number 9, 2021 that approved the supervisor's appointment of a temporary assignment for secretary to the supervisor. And that was inappropriate. The board should have approved the rate of pay for the supervisor secretary, but it is the supervisor's appointment to make as long as the supervisor sees fit. So what I'd like to do is to amend Resolution 9, 2021 to make the appointment of Catherine Hankins as a as an appointment by the supervisor. And given that this is an election year, I leave it up to you to decide, do we want to make it through December 31st, 21, or do we want to make it with no end date? I could live with either.
Because we don't have to approve it, does it make a difference?
Well,
It's-
I'm giving you the option like I have in other cases, so if you'd like to exercise that option, I'm giving you that opportunity.
Are all appointments appointed at the organizational meeting and it's just a year, or?
Yeah.
Because I think the deputy clerk, the assessor's clerk is, but this is different potentially because this is your appointment, supervisor. So I guess I need clarification on that.
All appointments are made at the organizational meeting and they don't extend beyond the end of the year. The elected officials certainly do, but staff appointments don't.
Right. Unless it's for specific terms, like the planning board or the zoning board. Those are for
Exactly.
specific terms.
Exactly.
I don't have a problem keeping it to the end of a 1-year appointment or a reappointment every year.
That's fine.
Anyone else?
That's fine.
Deputy
fine either way.
supervisor?
I'm fine
Okay.
either way.
And Ryan?
Yeah, to the end of the year is good, like all the others.
All right.
All right, so
Then-
Jerry, now here comes the question. The board approves the salary, which
Yes.
we did through March 31st, because it was supposed to be a temporary assignment. So where are we with that?
Well, I don't think in midstream, there would be a lot of energy to change the salary.
Well, no, and I'm not talking about changing the salary, but the salary approval ended March 31st. So that would require an extension of this salary through the end of the year. And I guess my question is, are we actively trying to solicit a permanent replacement? Or is what you're saying, Catherine is the permanent replacement?
Catherine is the replacement that I've appointed, but I'm not going to hamstring anyone by making it in perpetuity.
True, but I mean, her original appointment was a temporary appointment. So I guess that's where the language needs to be clarified.
Yeah, the original appointment was because her original intent, her intent was to help me through a tight spot.
Okay.
And then, you know, she found out that I wasn't as bad as you told her I was. And I found out that she wasn't as bad as I had thought she was. And we are a good team now. And
Well,
that's
and
what I want to
spending time
continue.
with her today, it seems like she's enjoying the job. So
Good.
She
John,
worked-
can you answer the salary question that Councilperson Wolver had? I'm sorry, Wickerham?
I think it's just as simple as extending out the salary to just ensure that it's not a temporary salary. It's simply just being extended coterminous with the position. I mean, if it's revisited at a later date, you know, that's going to be at the prerogative of the supervisor to appoint and subject to salary setting by the town board. I think the question that Councilwoman Wickerham was asking was, are we just going to extend this out to the end of the year because Ms. Hankins is staying till the end of the year, or is there going to be a solicitation of another of another employee to replace Ms. Hankins? That was probably more the question, right?
yeah, I mean, that was what we originally understood. So we
Yeah,
need
the
to make
job
sure
continues
that
to be
we're still
posted.
paying Catherine. Sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the job continues to be posted, so that lends to some confusion as well. So are we still soliciting applications for the position? Or should we, you know, take that down?
We,
on the town website.
I asked the town clerk to post that once or twice after the original posting, and there continued to be applicants that did not fit the metric that we had put together for that job. So I don't know if you're seeing a posting that's still up. It shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's on our website.
Yeah, still.
Then we'll have that taken down. I apologize for that. I thought it was taken down.
Okay. Okay, well, but that's the clarity that we needed, whether it was, you know, whether Catherine was still interested in only being temporary, or whether Catherine is interested in being appointed permanently. And that was something that none of us were quite clear on.
Well, she thinks I need help, so she's willing to stay.
And she does an excellent job.
Yes, she does.
And she's
Outstanding job.
probably right about you needing help.
That could
Well,
be.
Councilman Wickerham, you saw how she can find that information. So she's
Yeah.
she's very knowledgeable for all of
Yes,
us.
she is. I've known Catherine a long time.
All right. Can we amend that resolution to make the appointment through December 31st of this year?
I'll second that.
Can I just clarify, do we need to have anything for the salary amount equal to her current salary? Do we need to have that as part of that resolution or no?
I'm not, do you have the old resolution in front of you in terms of what was stated?
I do. Councilperson Lang moved, be it resolved that the town board acknowledges and approves the supervisor's appointment of Catherine Hankins for a temporary assignment as part-time secretary to the supervisor beginning January 1st, 21 and ending March 31st, 21. There's no mention of rate.
Then what was introduced is inaccurate amendment of the prior one, so it just needs a second.
I'll second it.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Wickerham,
Aye.
Councilman Lang,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin.
Aye.
Supervisor QC.
Aye. Okay, we can move on to a discussion of the Conservation Board status. And I think I've seen a couple of emails about this. Would anyone like to volunteer their descriptor of why we are discussing this?
I'm not sure how the title of the committee or commission or board would change their activities. So I'm a little confused on why they want to become a board as opposed to what in the town code they're called I believe they're the entity that's called the Environmental Conservation Commission, and that was established in 1972. And now they're called the Conservation Board, but I'm not sure they're really a board. And I'm not sure what board status would get them that an Environmental Conservation Commission would get them.
When I was the liaison last year, Councilman Welliver, towards the end of 2020, the discussion came up because of the importance of the environment and the importance of their work. And the discussion came up as far as are we an official board of the town or are we not? And the town clerk shared with us that they were not. That's why they don't get support from Zoom, things like that. So anyone.
Okay, so they want support from the town, like the other boards.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that their work is vitally important, not only to the planning, but also to the zoning and their comments. And when you look through the code, they're not recognized as an official board, and more municipalities across New York State are having their conservation committees, commissions go through the requirements or the tasks of New York State to become an official board. They are paid like all other boards. They have responsibilities as all other boards. And I think as we've all sat in on their meetings, the information that they do have and they do share and their knowledge base is extremely important. So to have them an officially recognized conservation board, as we have a planning board and a zoning board, I think is the right thing to do.
Now, the Conservation Board, I agree, Deputy, that work they do is vitally important. They are an advisory board, and they really don't make a vote a decision. Is it important for them to become a voting board?
Well, what if we, since we're talking about them and they're not here in the sense to speak to it, what if when Councilman Welliver meets with them at their next meeting in May, and then maybe if they have that discussion, we then invite them to a town board meeting to have that kind of a discussion, so we understand as well as they understand. Councilman Wickerham, you're looking.
Well, I'm kind of confused. I'm looking at the same document that Dan is looking at as far as the town adoption of the Environmental Conservation Commission. And then I went back and looked at the organizational minutes, and the adoption of the commission states very specifically that they do not receive compensation.
I know.
But in our organizational minutes, we've been paying them. So I guess it had from 1972 to whenever, did that change? Obviously, at one point they weren't a paid commission. So when did that change? And this might be a moot conversation if it's already changed. How do we figure that out?
Well, it needs to be found out and obviously corrected. The one of the impetus for this to kind of have the discussion was when 2021 came around and Councilman Wolliver became their liaison and I moved on to the library. They didn't have any meetings scheduled. Their January meeting was canceled, their February meeting was
Right.
canceled. And then March came along and their meetings are publicized. They, open to the public for Zoom, but in talking with the town clerk, they don't do that for the conservation board. Like Shelley, the assistant or the deputy town clerk, runs the Zoom for the planning and the zoning. There was no one to do that for the conservation board. So as a deputy supervisor, I still had that other Zoom account.
Right.
From
But who did
Victoria.
it last year? Who did it last year during?
Victoria
big-
did.
Okay.
Victoria did.
But, okay, just,
Because the town clerk, Pam Bucci, says that does not fall under their
yeah,
responsibility because they're not a
Right.
board.
right, I understand, okay, I understand that piece of it. But I
Okay.
guess what we first need to determine is whether the 1972 adoption was there ever an amendment to that really does tell us already if they are a recognized board, because somewhere along the line somebody decided that they were getting paid. So I would think somewhere between 72 and maybe even 79, because there was an amendment made in 79 about membership.
Yep.
That something changed somewhere between 1979 and God knows when. How long have they been paid? How do we find that out? Do we have to go back through all the microfiche and really?
Well, actually, we reached out to Attorney Mancuso, the Conservation Board did, and myself.
Right, and I saw his
Dan.
response.
And so Attorney Mancuso, I don't know if you want to share, if you recall anything.
Yeah, I mean, I discussed it with John Felsen because he was the most tenured member of the town that had some knowledge of the workings of the county. And had he had recollection about the formation of the board, but wasn't aware of when, the changing of the monikers, as it were, from commission to board may have happened. Our code certainly has never been updated to reflect any change in their authority. So they are operating, I believe, under that current, town code section. So whether, whether some change was made on an informal basis between 1979 and at least the last 11 years that I've been the town attorney, I'm not aware of any changes that have happened during my time. So it had to happen somewhere between 79 and 2009.
Right.
We may need to look at if the first question is, does the town board want to change the charge of that conservation board? Do they want to stay advisory? Is the scope of their review going to be the same as it is right now? It may not necessitate any change to our code, or if there is going to be changes in their scope that may warrant us making clarifications in terms of revising that section so we clear this up. But I think the idea to have them involved in this discussion is the right one. We should get their input to this, so they can explain to us, how they see their board operating.
Okay.
I agree.
Yep.
I'll look into it at the next conservation board meeting and see if I can get members to attend the next town board meeting.
Thanks, Dan.
That would be
Thank you,
good.
Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else? All right, last but not least, as most of us know, the former Bosse's property, currently known as the Rush Riverside Refuge, has 40 acres of tillable land that exist between River Road and the railroad track in 2 or 3 different parcels. It is not part of the 100-acre parcel. I have had discussions with 2 farmers who would both like the opportunity to rent that land for crop production. One of them said he would sign confirmation that his use of any chemicals would be at an absolute minimum. The other one didn't make that comment, but I thought I would bring the requests of those two individuals to the meeting and have discussion about it.
Supervisor, can I ask for clarification, given this is parkland, and I know there's a term accessory or some terminology.
Parkland alienation?
No.
Ancillary use.
That's the term, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Is that allowed on this property? I know it hasn't been farmed, well, it was farmed maybe last year, I think, right? They
2
put
years
some-
ago.
I don't know if it was last year. Year
Okay,
before.
2 years ago?
It's been farmed since we got it. Like
Okay.
2010, 2011.
I know it's been farmed since then.
Yeah,
Well, Jerry, my question, the farm, when it was being rented while the town owned it, wasn't it for livestock and it was a different kind of agricultural use? What's the suggestion for the proposed use?
we had
There were
livestock over there. and we
both
also had-
uses. It was used for livestock grazing and it was used for tillable planting.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. Okay.
So
I don't
the-
have a problem with it.
The use of pesticides or herbicides, is that, again, I'm just thinking parkland type of chemicals. I know on parks, they're not supposed to use those materials. So I just want to make sure as we move forward, we make an informed decision that we know the right process that we can authorize use there.
I just know with Bruce Howlett, I think he's one of the farmers. He was always willing to say when he was gonna spray. So that he would post it on the website, I think we used to. And he's more than accommodating to whatever he's gonna use any chemicals.
Can we get a proposal from each of them, supervisors, so we can know exactly, just like we're doing with the Horse's Friend, to know exactly what they're going to, their proposal, what they're going to put on, are they using chemicals? So we have something. I know time's running out because it's that time of year.
Yes. I had conversations with both of them. I told the both of them that this would have to be a board decision. And depending on the results of that decision, I would contact them to provide them with further information. A proposal would be part of that further information.
The other question that I would have is, will we require current market rate as far as leasing, or are we thinking something different?
That's a good question.
We had the proposals that they put in when we first started allowing farming. They proposed how much they would pay us.
Okay. Well, and I know that the town of Henrietta, or not the town of Henrietta, the school district has a piece of property over on Calkins Road that they lease to a farmer for, and it's minimal. It isn't anywhere near market rate, but at least the property's being used as it's supposed to be used. So
we're getting market rate.
Okay.
I will share this conversation with both of them and see what they provide. And we're under no commitment to accept it or reject it. Let's see what happens.
But I agree with, this is time of the essence. You don't want to wait 2 weeks to make that decision.
Oh, no, I'll do it this week.
Okay, but do you want our go ahead? I mean, is enough for us to say, I don't have a problem with it enough? Or do we have to do a resolution or something similar to make sure?
And I was actually going to ask that, follow up on that question, Councilwoman Wickerham. What is the date by which they really need to get on the property and start cultivation? Is this weeks? Is this a month? How long do we have?
Well, it all depends on the crop you're gonna plant, but generally speaking, the March to May
Yeah, before the
when-
1st of May, I would think.
window
I-
is what what they generally work with.
Yeah.
And
So if we have-
I haven't seen much around me, any tilling of land whatsoever yet.
Well,
And
being
so-
over on the Howlett property today, I know Bruce was suggesting that he was going to be out doing prep work this week because it's time. So I think that it's anywhere between now and the next couple of weeks. So I don't want to put them off too long because neither one of them will be able to do anything if we wait too long.
We
So-
won't put them off.
So
Okay.
would you say we have one board meeting left to make a decision on this? That's April 28th. Do you think May 12th is too late?
Yeah, I'd like to do something by the next board meeting.
Before
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
Okay,
before
so,
then.
so what the town board would have to do is approve a license agreement for whatever property it is and do a seeker review on that license agreement for the use. Now, historically speaking, we've done this a couple of times for the times that we've licensed property for farming purposes. And so we have a lot of information already on perceived impacts associated with the farming. The proposal will be important to know what type of crop it is, what type of pesticide usage is anticipated or not. They
Okay.
should try to get all that information in as quickly as they can to the town board so that we can, if the board is interested in proceeding, they can be ready for the next meeting.
John,
And
I'll work with you to prepare a proposal, or not a proposal, but a request from them that we can then present to the board.
Right, if we can have a lease, a draft lease ready for the next board meeting, at least with, generic information, specifically if Jerry can get it, or at least ready to pop in the specific information before the next board meeting, that would be great.
We'll get it.
Okay,
Again, if I could just make one last request, this is parkland, so I want to make sure we are following the proper procedure of chemicals, pesticides, things like that. I'm not trying to deter or say yes. I just want to make sure we are following the health and safety of our town. Those are all wells
Understood.
over there, and we want to make sure everyone's protected.
It's my cannabis farm, Amber.
What's that, Ryan? I don't know.
What did he say?
I said it's my cannabis farm.
Oh, my Lord.
they just approved that in the state.
just
We can all
saying.
have one of
I'm just
those.
saying, gotta get while the going's good.
Yep.
Yeah, and while Ryan brought up his subject, let me caution all of you that the 19 supervisors in the town, in the county of Monroe are meeting to think about how they're going to react to that. Because we do have the option of opting out,
Opting out, yeah.
but there's more to it than that, but that will give you just a peek under the tent flap.
Yeah.
So-
Well, and I don't know if it's opting out of the farming or if it's only opting out of commercial or retail
And
sales.
we don't know that either.
Right.
That's something we've got to find out.
Yeah, that's because the state enacts laws and never puts regulations to them until 20 years later.
I was gonna say that, yep.
But you can guarantee no money coming in.
Exactly.
That's okay. As long as we keep Ryan happy, that's all that matters.
That's true. That's true.
All right. We can now move on to the last public comment session. And I want to remind everybody that this is where you can ask a question, maybe, hopefully get an answer. Please be considerate of others around you who are listening and be respectful of those you are addressing. So please have at it.
Supervisor, I see Janet Glocker, and then I thought I saw a hand up at John Morelli, so we will start with Janet Glocker.
Thank you.
Janet Glocker at Rush Henrietta, 791 Rush Henrietta Town Line Road. I would hope there would be information available about the fundraising opportunity for the Gaga Field or Court or whatever it's referred to. We have the honor of having an Eagle Project son, and watching him go through that, I would like to contribute to this project here in the town of Rush, but I don't know how to go about that. So I hope information can be made available if people would like to contribute. Thank you.
I will, Mrs. Glocker, I will give you his contact number so that if you'd like to
Okay.
do that, you can contact him.
Terrific. Thank you.
Next, I saw John Morelli hand up.
The video's not working there.
You are correct. We can hear you though.
Oh,
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
surprise, it's Jean Morelli here.
Oh, oh, hi, Jean.
I popped over here on this side of the room because my audio wasn't working, so I apologize. Jean Morelli, 535 Five Points Road. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Mancuso for his presentation tonight on rezoning requests. I thought it was very informative, and I hope you all took it to heart as well. Having said that, and building upon what he has said, and I agree, in light of the current process that is undergoing in the town, it's a pretty involved and important process of reviewing our current master plan, the comprehensive master plan. Why would you even entertain a request for rezoning where it involves a change of use that is different from the current plan? Or why wouldn't you wait to see what the residents of the town of Rush, what their vision is, what our collective vision is for wherever it's being proposed? Again, especially where it's going to involve a change in use. I would just implore that you give that some consideration, to put kind of a moratorium on any request for rezoning that are going to involve a change in the current use. Thank you. And if you have any comment on that, I would appreciate that.
I will comment on that, Jean, as one member of the board, and hope that others would comment. My comment to that is, we cannot put town business on hold for waiting for the comprehensive plan. But what we can do is really look into the proposal for that rezoning, and depending on the results of the combined board thought process, we may not approve it right away.
Okay, I just would appreciate your taking that into consideration, where you're having a change of use, and we have a plan in place that has a vision that was created by the people of the town of Rush and reinforced over the years. And there may be a different vision that comes along that is going to be voted on or surveyed by the people of the town of Rush. And I don't think we should be making changes at this point, and where it involves a change in use while we're undergoing this process. And that's my opinion. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That's
Well,
interesting, Mrs. Jerry, can I respond?
You certainly can.
Because that's interesting that she should mention that we have a current plan in place, and I've pulled up the current comprehensive plan, and it does suggest that the I-390 Route 15 corridor is the prime area for the light industrial or commercial development. So what we are looking at is the property in question, or the one you are suggesting we not look at, is in that exact area. It was mentioned even in the requests or the proposals for the 2010 review of it, that particular corridor would be the corridor we would look at to do those types of development, to keep them out of the hamlet and out of the rural environment of the town. So I think that if we really look at the current comprehensive plan and the proposal and keep in mind the future comprehensive plan, we're gonna do our due diligence and make sure that we're doing the right thing for the entire community.
Well, I appreciate that. And that it is true that that particular parcel that is being discussed, part of that is in the consideration as in that corridor for light industrial. The issue is that based on the things that I have seen on the proposals, the concept plans, were for activities that don't come under the definition of light industrial. So there's a twist in there that, the proposed activities are not what is in the current comprehensive plan. So you need to understand that and differentiate that. I'm not trying to stop anything. Just, it needs to be considered that that is not under the current comprehensive plan. What the activities that are being proposed could possibly be considered as industrial. We don't have any zoning or proposed zoning for industrial. So I think there is a very distinct differentiation in those two things that need to be considered. I appreciate you taking the time and fine tune that and not go beyond what the town has envisioned that, for itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know John wanted to talk about something else. Sorry if we're monopolizing things, but that's the way it is.
Hello, John Morelli, 535 Five Points Road, in the dark here. I just wanted to bring up something. Mr. Limbeck spoke earlier, and he offered a somewhat soothing rebuttal to my expressed concern regarding the safety of battery storage. And I do appreciate his assessment, but I do need to add that I do not believe that our state agencies are now in a position to provide us with reliable information regarding anything having to do with renewable energy and related energy storage. And I'm of this opinion because I've been in conversations with professional scientists, engineers, and technologists in more than one state agency, and have been told by them in confidence that the governor's strong interest in moving forward with the state's energy goals does in fact influence the statements that ultimately are made by their own leadership, the leadership of these various departments or agencies, to the extent that they do not always reflect the findings, research, and the opinions of the experts in these departments. And I don't know what to do about it. I mean, research is needed. It has to be fair, honest, and unbiased. We might need to seek collaborations with other towns and outside of our state government in order to find the truth. But as long as this bias is in place, we need to be concerned that we might be just getting blown off at this point by our governor for purposes that I'm sure he believes are very worthy, but may have some question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Supervisor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Limbeck.
If I could respond to that, my video isn't working.
We can hear you.
The fallacy of that remark is that the hazards you're going to find with this battery storage, while the exact technology isn't there, the explosion hazards, the ventilation hazards, the electrical hazards are all very comparable, and that technology isn't going to change. And you will have a little bit of fine tuning, but 95% of that technology exists in the hazard codes that those facilities would be built to.
Well, thank you, John. If I could just comment back, I have heard comments regarding our fire department and their concern regarding being able, whether or not they'd be able to deal with it. I don't have all these details, as I said in the very beginning. I just want to make sure that we're not jumping the gun on any of this.
And what I would offer, Mr. Morelli, is as we get further along with this, similar to the drawings and the specifications that we'll get for the actual solar farms, if this battery storage progresses, that's something that I would invite people that wanted to look at drawings, look at spec books, whatever, and look at the designs, have those conversations. And that's why we're getting into it at this early stage, so we can help develop that further.
Thank you.
Thank you both, Johns.
Thank you.
Catherine Hankins, would you like to turn your video and unmute yourself? Your hand is up.
Okay, all right, thank you. I have two concerns. One is for the comprehensive plan. I know it was authorized in February and it was appeared to be a board authorized committee. So that's how I've been putting it into the new website. So with that, it should be covered under public officers law is my understanding, and there should be the agenda, the minutes, everything should be based on public officers law. So if I'm incorrect, but to have it be an authorized board that would actually create a comprehensive plan based on my reading of the law. So I don't know if you have a comment on that or you want to look into that. John, our attorney might have a comment on that.
I'd have to look into that.
Okay, so I have, and I can send you the information. Because I think that's very important that the community continues to be well-informed and actually well-engaged in that whole entire process. The second comment is on the farming at the Rush Riverside Refuge. So the farming stopped in 2019, not because Mr. Howlett wanted to stop it. It stopped because we had really worked very diligently, the Rush Recreation Park Association, as well as many of citizens who, I don't even know if the Rush RPA was actually certified as a nonprofit at that point, but we had done an extensive amount of homework in terms of what the rules are for parkland alienation. I'm not opposed to having farming at the Rush Riverside Refuge. In our plan from 2012, we had embraced the idea of farming that would be, in quotes, agritourism, recreational, educational, and use that land so that it was supportive of residents of all ages coming to do that. So chemicals are part of the picture, but more than that, it's how that land would be cultivated. So maintenance, very similar to what Councilwoman Wickerham said, the Rush Henrietta School District has property that they rent, but it does not necessarily interfere with their operations, and it's not perhaps considered park and recreation. But under park and recreation, it would be considered parkland alienation. The rulings from the court have clearly stated that license is the same as lease, can call it something different, but it is comparable, and the courts have ruled that that still constitutes parkland alienation if citizens are unable to access it, unable to enjoy it, or in any way compromise the rights of citizens to use their property. And it violates under the law, the public trust. So before we move forward, we need to continue to establish criteria, whether it's the horse's friend, just for our town to have some continuity, some clarity, and some real simplicity in terms of what this land means to us and to those who will come after us. And we can't have it be every board coming to the table as some sort of brand new, wonderful experience. We have a history, and we should really respect that history. And that history goes back a long ways. And I have, again, no problem with farming as long as it's a partnership, as long as it's complementary to Park and Recreation, and as long as it really qualifies as maintenance, because we have the opportunity within 2 years to have that land be free of pesticides. If we use pesticides, Mr. Howlett is working with us closely on our 100 acres. And he will say, it's very hard to have the crop yields without any pesticides, but the world is moving. The new USDA, the New York State Eggs and Market, they have grants that have been available for over 5 years, 10 years for farm to table, farm to school, but we must achieve the status of organic, and organic needs 3 to 4 years. The second part is that because we've let that land go fallow for 2 years, we now have some wonderful birds and habitat and set up the habitat for a lot of little creatures that I don't certainly want to meet, but people really do enjoy them. So before we move forward, please respect all of the homework that has been done, and let's sit down and see what the criteria is. Again, if you're going to go out there to recruit a farmer, let's do it with a procurement process, because that procurement process not only gives the right price, but it also gives them the message of what we expect from them, because there are towns, there are businesses that are being sued because of chemical exposure. Certainly we still use it on golf courses, but when it comes to having a place for children, we have lawsuits going on for Roundup. These things were accepted 5 years ago, 8 years ago, but wonderful, wonderful citizens in our community, such as Cecil Palmer. We had wonderful people on our committees. They knew what was the price tag for those chemicals. They're okay for farms, but they're not okay for children. So please, we have a lot of expertise in Rush RPA. We have almost 10 advisors now that are coming from Park and Recreation, from use of natural resources. So let's use that expertise before it sounds good. But for $5,000, the going rate is between $86 and $125 per acre. For $5,000, that's what's the liability for our community? What's the potential for losing ground and establishing the foundation for much more lucrative grants, if that's really the goal? But let's step back a bit, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hankins. Anyone else?
Yes, there's another.
I'm talking while I'm muted. Sorry, Supervisor. Galaxy S7, you had turned your video on. Did you want to say something? And then the video is off. If you would like to speak, feel free to unmute yourself and tell us your name and your address. All right, nothing from Galaxy S7.
Courtney Parker had her hand up.
Just turned her video on. I know she had turned it on previously and then went away. So now she's back. If you can unmute yourself, Courtney, and tell us your address.
Hold on 1 second. I was having technical difficulties.
Yeah, now you're getting all your feedback from Zoom.
I'm trying to turn my phone off. I lost the computer connection.
Oh, that sounds better.
Okay, hopefully that fixes it. In just a second. I'm trying to shut my phone off.
Okay. Yeah, we're still getting the feedback. Now it sounds okay. Whatever you did.
There we go. Technology is a wonderful thing. However, sometimes it really throws a monkey wrench. So My name is Courtney QC Parker. I enjoy a very temporary residence on Rotzell Road. My main residence is in North Carolina. However, I'm coming to this meeting because my interest is within the tax reassessment of the real estate properties that all of the taxpayers within the town of Rush have received as far as the assessment. I have 16 years of local government service to taxpayers. 8 of those years have been in an assessor's office, and I'm still currently working in an assessor's office. So I feel pretty confident that I know what I'm talking about. But I won't get into all of that. What I do want to address is that you, as the town of Rush and the governing body, open these meetings because of COVID through the best way that you know how, which is via Zoom, via YouTube. And I'm aware, as I'm sure all of you are, that not everybody has that opportunity to participate via this way. However, that's the best way that pretty much anybody can do it at this point. And I do appreciate it. But my comments are coming from recent social media posts regarding the recent revaluation of real property taxes and the assessment that comes from that. And there was a whole lot of commentary, talk, communication, complaints, concerns from the taxpayers of Rush regarding these reassessments on social media platforms. What I'm not seeing are those same complaints and concerns brought here during a live Town of Rush meeting with the board, with its citizens, with its leadership. I responded to a few of those comments on a particular social media platform regarding the recent reassessments. And although I am not a 100% full-time resident of Rush, New York, I was born and raised in Monroe County, New York, which I'm very proud of. And I realized that even though that I'm not working currently in that jurisdiction, I am working in a jurisdiction that is going through the same exact thing. It is an unfortunate, untimely event to have a reassessment of real property taxes. Everybody knows that we have gone through COVID. We continue to go through COVID. And unfortunately, taxes are a necessary evil. And although none of us like it, especially those that work in that field, we need to understand that it is necessary. But I think the bigger concern here is when you have social media platforms and citizens that retreat only to those social media platforms to express their disgust, their concerns, their complaints, but they don't take the time, as I have today, and I am not even in your state right now, to sit through now over 3 hours of a board meeting that is important to me. And I have not heard yet one person express their concern regarding their assessment or why it was even done. And I think that is probably one of my biggest issues as a public servant is people rush to social media platforms on big ticket items such as this, and they don't attend what you provide for them as far as a platform to voice their concerns. It took me all of 3 minutes to look up the New York State Taxation and Finance Guidelines. It would behoove your citizens and your taxpayers to look up that exact thing, the New York State Taxation and Finance. Down here, it's called the general statutes. Up there, I'm sure it's referred to statutes or laws. It's all the same thing. They're tax laws. Every state, every jurisdiction, every county, every city, every township, every borough, they are subject to laws that cover proper taxation of not only real estate, but in our area, we have personal property taxation. I think the biggest concern, like I said, is the fact that I have not seen one person on this forum from that town who had a whole lot to say on social media not present themselves or even speak up for themselves at this town board meeting. I was hoping that there were people that were going to participate under that particular concern because, like I said, it took me about 3 minutes to look up the New York State Taxation and Finance website and find publication number 1028 that explains why a reassessment is absolutely not only mandatory, but necessary for all jurisdictions, boroughs, counties, whatever you have in New York State to perform these revaluations. I would just hope, and I'm going simply on record to say, that as citizens, it is their responsibility as members of the community to become part of the voice of their community. And if they have any concerns or doubts, they need to be active. They need to ask questions. They need to educate themselves. I don't live there, and it took me 3 minutes to find out why a reassessment was performed after the last 8 years. I don't know what the town board or the town supervisor can do to encourage more community involvement. I don't know if a social media platform setup would help. That's all I'm here because my expertise is in taxation, and I am born and raised in Monroe County, and I do have a special interest in Rush, obviously. But I think the concern is, and probably the focus of the town board should be, if there are people out there willing to go on to social media, you need to get them into these town board meetings. And if they got something to say, have them say it so you can address it. And don't let them go off down these rabbit holes of untruths and ignorance. Because it took me 2 minutes, and I'm in North Carolina, and I can tell you and quote you the New York State Taxation and Finance Guidelines. Thank you, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Courtney.
Supervisor, I think we have one more, maybe a telephone, 512. You're on, there you go. 512, did you want to speak?
Yes, please. Hi, Marion Rizzo, 25 Stoll Road. I want to concur with everything Catherine Hankin said about the Rush Riverside Refuge, the former BOCES land. And I want to ask the board to please slow down. I realize the farmers came to you and now you want to address it. But the question really should be, you know, instead of how do we help the farmers, the question should be, what can we do to make this park better for our residents? You know, it's deeded as a park and recreation and ancillary uses. So the word ancillary, I really don't want to get into it, but ancillary is not agriculture. You can wrap it up in saran wrap and you can call it ancillary means agriculture. It doesn't. So, you know, it's true. We haven't been farming it for a couple years now. We have an opportunity to make that land, you know, invite people on those lands and not have the threat of the chemicals. So even in about 3-4 years ago, the town board, a different town board, they worked on some legislation for the 100 acres, and their attempt was to change the deed, or at least the uses, and it would be like a zoning change. I don't know if it'd be called that, but they went to the state legislature, and 2 years in a row they tried changing it from park and recreation to timbering and agriculture. And 2 years in a row, the state legislator denied it. So there was the answer for changing the park and the recreation. And, you know, we don't want to go down this path again to go into parkland alienation. We really don't. So, I mean, would you consider, you know, trying to plant crops in Highland Park or in Mendon Ponds, Cobb's Hill? No, you would just, the planners, the town board would try to say, hey, what are the needs of this public space, and what can we do for our town? And this will be a generational caveat, a gem in our town, if only we treat it right. Now, there might be some kind of small way of satisfying a farmer somewhat, and a park visitor. We did learn recently of this bobbling program from that the Audubon Society is partnering with farmers, and they allow the farmers to farm. It's on the farmer's land, but they actually give them money to just cut down their wheat and alfalfa at certain times so as not to disrupt the nesting and the fledging of the bobbling bird. And also there's a savanna, I think a warbler. So these birds are nesting in the field, and they'll pay the farmer so much. So I mean, the bottom line is, if you cut it at certain times, and maybe late August, they would have already nested and fledged, and that you wouldn't just be mowing them down right through the nest. So I mean, it wouldn't be as lucrative, but it would be something. It would be a way to keep the fields proliferous and beautiful. But anyway, so I just don't think making money should not be, we should not be the goal for the park and recreation, for our park. That's not the goal of the park. So I really like you to step back, please. If you want to talk to us, or some of us, we'd like to come talk to you. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne.
Supervisor, I'm not seeing any other hands or people unmuting themselves, so that might be.
Well, I think.
No. Oh, I apologize. Bill Darren just put his hand up.
Bill Darren, New Jersey. Bill.
Greetings. Greetings from the corner of 7-Eleven and Dunkin' Donuts in beautiful Fairlawn, New Jersey, the most overtaxed and over-demanded upon place on earth, according to some people. I have a question for you. You guys had a resolution about forming a committee that was going to sit down and start doing planning. You remember that? That was like 4 weeks ago. Is that right? Like a bunch of people, there was like a committee, like a list of a whole bunch of people that were supposed to get together and start planning. Is that?
That was for the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, exactly. That thing. When do they meet?
Well,
we had our first meeting on Monday this past week.
Oh,
And our
good.
next one is going to be on May 3rd upcoming.
So what's the outcome? Is there like a minutes or a final thing that happens at the end? What's going to happen there?
I'm waiting for the download from the Zoom meeting that was recorded so I can take appropriate notes, but I have no record keeper, so I'm doing my best to be the secretary part of the note keeping there and getting it out. And I know Mary Ann Rizzo is on here tonight and she was part of it, and we're going to maintain a transparency and we're going to get minutes out and posted to online. We have a portion of the website dedicated to the comprehensive plan update. And the concerns are right now is before we get a consultant in, and we want to do as much groundwork as we can as the committee. So that's why we've got assembled a bunch of engineers. We've got a lot of expertise. We've got farming community. We've got a good mix of the citizens here to help us out and get on the right path. But we're reviewing a document that hasn't been updated since what? Written in 1993, looked at in 2010, and nobody's ever acted upon it. So the changes that everybody's talking about tonight and zoning and this and that, all being addressed.
Awesome. Okay. I'll be looking for that, hopefully to see it. I don't want to say much about taxation or assessment and all that junk. I want to give Jerry, like one of them for crisis communications. Good job. I like the fact that you told us what's going on and what you know, and the fact that maybe you don't have the answers because we don't know what taxes are going to be. But bottom line is the can got kicked down the road too long, and you got to do what you got to do, as we say in New Jersey.
Thank you.
The only piece that I want to leave everybody with is this. This is my tax bill from New Jersey. My house in Rush got reassessed more than my little house here in New Jersey. I know it's not the market rate here in New Jersey. I'd probably be way over, but here in New Jersey, I have sewers, I have a police department, I have a rec center. They pick up my garbage here, man. They pick up my recycling. When it goes to summer, they pick up my garbage twice a week. So what you pay for, what you get, and why people want to move to Rush might be for a nice park, might be for a nice view out your back window, might be for a great school district, might be for some other things too, which costs too much money that people in Rush that have all those other things can't afford because there's no way to pay for them. And with that, I leave you and thank you for telling me about the planning thing. I'll be watching to see what happens. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill.
And now Supervisor, I think that might have been our last public comment period, number 2 participant.
Well, I will accept that. And I want to thank everyone for your participation tonight, both board members and support and residents who logged on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will wait to see you next time. Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Have a good one.
Shelley, you can turn off the live on YouTube, I believe. I don't know if it